Welcome to the DL, the podcast show that talks about everything to do with truck repair and diagnostics for the heavy truck and construction industry. I am your host, Tyler Robertson, CEO and founder of Diesel Laptops. Welcome to the DL. I am your host, Tyler Robertson. This is the podcast show where we talk about everything to do with truck and heavy equipment repair. So today we are going to talk to our first ever CEO of a truck dealership on our show here today. So I personally grew up working in truck dealerships. That's where I worked at before. My family owned one, and we get to talk to a family-owned business one today as well. So Brett Graham, owner and CEO of Graham Truck Centers and Graham International. Welcome to the DL.
Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate you having me on. I've certainly enjoyed, I've been a Diesel Laptops customer for several years, and I've sure enjoyed watching what you've done with the company and admired that from afar. And I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today.
So I'll tell you what I appreciate and admire is the fact that you're one of the, we call them dealer principals. When I grew up at the dealership, I don't know if they call them in that in your neck of woods. But, we don't see a lot of dealer principals or dealership owners on LinkedIn talking about their business and doing stuff. Am I just out of that circle or are there other ones out there that you stumble across?
Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen one either. And I just don't understand that. It's a missed opportunity to, LinkedIn does a lot of things. But, for me, it's not about trying to sell something. It's about working to create a brand and just to expose people to who you are and your organization and to share things that work and that we learn. I just think it's really a missed opportunity for a lot of people that aren't utilizing it.
Yeah. And I think people don't understand that, as business owners, you own a business, I own a business, there's a personal brand and there's the brand you represent as well, right? And those are two different things a lot of times. And it's important to build both of them up because they're both really important. And I think, once you understand why you do something, it's much more powerful than what you do. And I know I see that with your LinkedIn posts, a lot of what you do as well. So let's talk a little bit about you, though. So why don't you give me a little history? How did you become the owner of a truck dealership? Not a lot of people in the planet can say something like that. So how did you end up there?
So I owe that to my mom and my dad. They started Graham International in 1965. My dad worked for International Harvester, ran the Dallas location for International, and had the opportunity to become one of the first dealers in the country for International to be where the franchise started setting up dealers. He was, I think, the second one. And so they started the company in 65. So I grew up, I wasn't born yet at that point, but I grew up in the dealership, spent a lot of time here, never really worked in the dealership to speak of. Went to college and went to Baylor University, got my degree. I'd been out 2 years doing commercial real estate appraisal when my dad passed away. And at that point, my mom and the employees made the decision to bring me back into it. And so that's how I ended up here almost 28 years ago now.
Yeah. So, that's pretty rare today in truck dealerships. You see a family like that having it for multiple decades. You see, and we'll talk about this later, a lot of the acquisitions and these big truck dealership groups, some are publicly traded, some are private. They're getting monster. We'll touch on that here a little bit. But the thing is very similar here. So my family, they're from the concrete and block business and in gravel pit operations, and they had a really good year. And, one thing my family hates to do is pay taxes. So they said, let's go buy another business. And hey, there's the Western Star truck franchise is going under in northern Minnesota. Let's go see if we can own that thing. So they did it. Yeah. So I can tell you what I learned through my family, and we knew nothing about a truck dealership. If there's 100 ways to lose money owning a truck dealership, I think we found 101 of them in how to lose money.
There's a lot more ways to lose money than there are to make money. That's for sure. But you got to run a pretty tight organization. There's just a lot of cracks.
Oh, there are so many avenues and so many bucket leaks, we used to call them, running a dealership. Just from every aspect, from your parts department and losing core eligibility and not buying your parts right and overstocking and obsoletes. And, it's that times 100 things inside a truck dealership. So you've been doing it for a while. But let's talk about your organization here a little bit first. So you have Graham International, which is your international truck dealership. But you also have some non-international dealership locations as well that go under, I believe, Graham Truck Centers.
That's correct.
And that's not common either in the whole dealership world to have kind of both worlds. What happened there? How did that become?
So, you're right. I mean, dealerships tend to stay in their lane and do what they do. They don't often venture out. If you think about the parts side of the business, dealerships tend to sell their proprietary lines, and they don't get too far away from that. Well, being up here in North Texas and Southern Oklahoma, we cover this huge geographic area, and there's really not much in the way up here of other dealerships. So we service all makes, all models, and have done that for years. And so, that way of thinking, we have to do things, whatever your customer needs has to drive your business decisions. And so we got into aftermarket parts real heavy to try to help sustain that side of the business. And so we kind of think a little differently in that perspective. So 20 years ago, I also have tried to focus on trying to be a one-stop shop as much as I can for my customers. I want to be able to come here and get, anything they might need, or as much as possible. And, we constantly had customers coming in needing help with tires. And so 20 years ago, I took a beat up old pickup, threw a compressor in it, and went and bought 64 tires on credit, because honestly, at that time, I didn't have the cash to pay for them.
Yeah.
And, that's what entrepreneurs do. We figure it out on the fly, right? And Graham Truck Centers was born. And over 20 years, we now have 4 locations, 3 in Texas, 1 in Oklahoma, a distribution center here in North Texas as well. And it was really, at the end of the day, just to solve a problem that my customers had. I could have never dreamed of becoming a dealer for both Bridgestone and Michelin. It's also rare for a commercial tire dealer to have those 2 lines, and 2 of the big 3. And so, it's been a great ride, and have a great team in place over there.
Yeah. So you have your tire business going on. You got your international truck centers going on. You got your aftermarket parts and service work going on. I saw you have a pump rebuilding shop as well. And I think, to kind of give some color here to everybody, you're not in Dallas or Houston or Fort Worth, right? You're kind of more smaller town, regional areas. And that's got to be harder. There's not as many customers, but you still got to have all the training, all the tools, all the resources, the buildings, the equipment. That stuff's still expensive. So how have you guys been successful? I mean, it's 50 years, right? You guys have been doing this for a while, so obviously you've figured it out. How do you compete against, and how do you stay in business like that in those small markets?
Yeah, it took a long time for me to figure that out. I didn't have the benefit of having my dad around to kind of guide me through that. And so that was hard to work through, but success in any operation. I know you can attest to this. It all starts with great people. Yeah. I mean, no matter, you can have the infrastructure to support a great business, but without great people, that doesn't matter. So I have had a great team I've been surrounded by when I got here, and have built on that. And that's really a key part of it. We do cover a very rural area. But at the same time, I'll say that's how I've been able to make it. I haven't come in and had, these big conglomerate dealers. They don't want to be in my market. They'll send parts trucks out there, and they'll try to send a service truck that charges way too much for mileage and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, my market isn't big enough for them, and it's worked out really well. We make a good, a nice income and do pretty well, but probably not on their scale. But I think that's why that's worked out in part.
Yeah, I mean, you can't upset customers when you're in a small market like that, right? Because word spreads fast. If you have cruddy service or you take advantage of customers, you find out you don't have customers anymore. So even though you didn't say it, I'm assuming that's a big part of what you have there is just taking care of the customers, and they're taking care of you guys. And, you mentioned Rush. I mean, they're the biggest truck dealership organization in North America. They have dealerships all over the country. They're based in Texas. I mean, they're not that far from you. Do you get a lot of that with, them trying to customers saying, "Oh, I can go buy that $5 cheaper. I can get a truck $1,000 cheaper from Rush," or playing you off on these bigger groups? And how do you defend against that when you're a smaller competitor in those markets?
Sure, and those are great points. I always, when I hire someone new to the organization, I remind them that, look, our customers, they're just not customers that walk in this dealership. I see them at football games on Friday night, at church on Sunday, and they're friends in addition to being customers. So that really has been a huge part of who we are and how we approach business. When it comes to competing, sure, we've particularly over the last 10 years, made a lot of changes in how we buy. I mean, there are quite a few commodity parts items that we buy by the trailer loads now, just to be competitive. It's still, because we don't buy 10 trailer loads, we don't buy quite at the rate that the big dogs do. But by buying trailer loads, we can get pretty close.
Yeah.
From there, it's about service. And I've proven it over and over again. You run circles around your competition in service. I mean, what good does it do to save $10 on a part when it takes an extra day to get it, and that truck costs you $1,000 a day to be down? We run circles around them in service. That's what we've always tried to do, and it's really been probably the key. One of the main key ingredients for our success.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you're in the thick of it there too, because you have Fleet Pride, who's based in Dallas, and they're obviously merger and acquisition company and owned by private equity and trying to expand. So there's a lot of Dallas is a big area. It's our second most shipped to state, but there's a lot of competition down there as well. So you guys
compete with a lot of them. And I gotta say that a huge part of the success has been the food chain here. I mean, if my guys need a decision, there's like a manager, a GM, and me.
Yeah.
And we can literally all be in a room in 5 minutes and make a decision. That's a competitive advantage as well. So we move quick and we're agile.
Yeah, we're a similar focus, because at the end of the day, I'm Diesel Laptops and we've grown fast and done all these things, but I'm competing against Bosch. I'm competing against Napa and O'Reilly's and AutoZone. They sell diagnostic tools as well. I'm competing against these big companies. Snap-on sells diagnostic tools. So I get where you're coming from. And the point I want to make to everybody, it doesn't matter how big your competition is, you're always going to have advantages over them. And it can be the service, it can be the speed, all those things those guys can't do. I've seen Snap-on take 2 years to make a decision on something. And in the meantime, we're 8 iterations beyond that already and moving even faster. So a lot of advantages. There's nothing wrong with being a smaller company and taking care of your customers and just growing your business and being in business for a long time.
Yeah, we're unique in this industry. In a lot of industries, the smaller businesses are going away. I think that's a shame. And I don't always think it serves the customers well either. When you have one mega dealer take over an entire metro area, that at the end of the day, that doesn't always serve the customer well either. So,
Yeah. So, I don't know if this happened up by you, but down here, they the COVID happened and they locked everything down. And basically they locked down everything except for like Walmart, Lowe's, and Home Depot and all these big companies. But all the small mom and pops had to go close doors and couldn't be in business anymore. And I'm like, what sense does any of this make? And there's been a weird situation with COVID. How have you guys handled COVID in Texas? I know you guys kind of spiked there and seemed like things are getting better now. I know the same thing happened here in South Carolina. What adjustments did you guys have to go through as a business?
Well, so I think it's important, and at least here in Texas, we almost have multiple markets, regions. So, right now we have a tremendous spike in COVID along the Texas-Mexico border and in the major metros. You get out of those areas and it's almost like a different world, where it's like it used to be. So you have varying degrees. Nonetheless, as a business, we never closed. We were not shut down one single day, and we had to get pretty creative in working through that. As a business owner, that decision falls squarely on your shoulders, and those were tough days for me, and as I'm sure many others, where we had to keep the doors open, we had to keep the trucks going, at the same time, figure out how to protect our people and make sure we kept everybody safe. And so we made a lot of adjustments, have become very creative. One of the things I'm kind of proud of is it was so difficult those first 4 to 6 weeks. I spent several hours a day trying to get equipment, hand sanitizer, cleaners, and it was very aggravating. And so I ended up making a deal with a manufacturer here in Texas that did hand sanitizer, and we started buying drums of it, and I started selling it to the community. I remembered what it was like to be gouged on that, and I didn't appreciate it. So anything we could get our hands on, we sold at a small markup. And man, now we've developed a way for schools to spray school buses with it, and we're selling a lot of hand sanitizer. But you just be creative, figure out solutions, keep your people safe, and do the best you can on keep taking care of your customers.
Well, one of the videos I saw on LinkedIn, I saw recently had to do with hand sanitizer, and I saw a whole bunch of school buses parked outside. And let me say this too: I appreciate that you wear shorts to work, because I usually do wear shorts to work as well. It's too hot here in South Carolina, so it's great to see that. But you did a video about doing the school bus and desanitizing it and everything. And I'm imagining seeing all those school buses in your yard means you guys do a little bit of business with the IC bus and school bus market. I can imagine schools weren't really buying school buses or doing much work, or were they trying to get ready? And is Dallas, Texas reopening? How's the school bus market, and how's business in general going for you guys? Now when you look at it, that we're kind of hopefully getting near the tail end of this thing. The school,
that is, we are very diverse as a company. I mean, fleet, small and large, municipal business, schools. We have a lot of eggs in our basket. School district business is our largest single egg, so to speak. So yeah, that was a pretty tough hit for the schools to just shut down and the buses weren't running. I would say overall, as an organization, we're teetering in that between 20 and 25% still today. We're from what we were doing before COVID, and I'm very grateful to be in that range, quite honestly. So, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are not nearly so fortunate, but it's schools reopen this week in most parts of Texas. I've got my first football scrimmage. My son plays high school football. He's a senior. We got our first scrimmage this week. Things are going to be a little different, but nonetheless, we're marching on and doing the best we can do. Hopefully this works out this fall. So, I mean, I have kids. I don't have, high school age kids. Mine are elementary school age still. But, I felt really bad last year. They basically didn't get to see anybody. They didn't get to play with any friends. They lost half a year education, essentially. This year, it's, some virtual, some in class, and who knows how that goes, depending on cases and all those things. So we actually hired an elementary school teacher here at Diesel Laptops to help not only my kids, but other employees of the same situation. It's hard to, I mean, even if they have, most schools are doing split schedules, 2 days on and then 2 or 3 days at home. But how are parents supposed to do that? How are they supposed to work and educate their kids at the same time? It's a really difficult situation for people. And we were fortunate enough, some of our employees could do that, some couldn't. And it's going to be a tough year. And I'm really looking forward to us being done with COVID. That was my biggest fear, was business going to zero. And you always rationalize in your head, business won't go to zero overnight. But when COVID hit, those first couple of weeks, man, it was... Man, I hope I got enough cash to last through this thing, because who knows where the bottom is. And I'm glad the bottom, like you said, I would take 20-25% down every day of the week, and know you're still in business and can still keep the lights on and make payroll. Right? We're going to be here. And I'm hopeful that one way or the other, after the first week of November, maybe the COVID thing will take down a little bit.
I got a sneaking suspicion that everything changes.
That might happen.
We'll see. How everything got all political really quick on a health crisis is crazy to begin with. And it's been a crazy year. I'm ready to, I always tell people 1 out of 5 stars for year 2020. Let's get into 2021 and get this thing behind us. So
Amen.
Glad to hear they're with us as well. So dealership, one of the things we hear about from people is technician shortages, and they can't find them. You're in a more, you're not in metro areas. Do you guys have diesel technician shortages? Is it a high turnover department? What's it like in your neck of the woods with diesel techs?
I don't think we're any different than anybody else. Diesel techs have been and continue to be a challenge. Really, what I think that we have managed to do a little bit differently after working my rear end off on this for several years, just trying to, it's like a puzzle. You just can't figure out the puzzle. I learned. I actually did a contract for a couple of years with a company, a nationwide company, on running ads and how to run employment ads and where to place employment ads and what platforms to use. I had a coach who helped me write my employment ads, and so for me, it began by really getting a strong base there, where I did a great job of describing the position. You're selling, you have to sell your business. You have to sell who you are, sell your organization. So having that well written, talking about the job, and then talking about the benefits. At that point, we stepped back and said, okay, let's look at our benefits package. How can we make this better? What is really a priority for these folks? And so we improved our benefits package. Of course, that helped. But at the end of the day, I really don't think that compensation in and of itself is the number one driver for people making those kinds of decisions. So I worked with a local marketing company. We put together a place on our website where we talked about and built out and took photos of the quality of life that comes with being in Sherman or Denison or North Texas. Pictures of the lake, pictures of our landscape. We were fortunate to live in a beautiful area with a lot of outdoor attractions. So we really promoted that. Great schools, just overall a very high quality of life. And so we spent our time making sure that when we interviewed people from the very first time they see us online to the time that they walk in the door, we're all talking about all of those things. And I think it's that whole package that it becomes attractive.
Yeah. So the previous company I worked for, we had one location in Charleston, South Carolina, right? And everybody else was inland, but I guarantee you it was a lot of pictures of beaches and all the ads and everything we were running trying to find technicians. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the next 10 years unfold with so many baby boomers still retiring and people leaving the business and everything else going on. But, diesel technicians aside, you're an OEM dealer. You're kind of on the front of it. I see in the media, I see electric trucks. We got Nikola. We got Tesla. We got, all these newcomers coming into the industry. Then you have traditional manufacturers now. Freightliner's got their electric trucks. Volvo's doing stuff. I haven't really followed where international is on that whole thing, but it seems like a lot of electric vehicles are making a big push here. I see self-driving trucks getting a lot of news media coverage. Where do you see the next couple of years if you're looking at crystal ball? Are electric trucks going to be rolling around Texas all over the place, or is it just not fit down there? And where do you see that going?
Yeah, international is expected next year to come to the market with an electric school bus. And so I do think we're going to see more and more of that slowly come into the marketplace. I don't know that it's going to be a tidal wave. At the end of the day, when, for instance, in North Texas or in Texas in general, we cover a lot of real estate. So you've got to have the capacity to cover those miles, and that'll never change. But yeah, electric's going to continue to play a role in that. I think if you talk about over the next 2 years, I think where the aspect of the business is going to be even more important than that is in the telematics and the development of telematics in the industry. For instance, International's telematics solution is called On Command, and it is an amazing platform that a fella at International by the name of Brian Mulshine has been working diligently on over the past 6 years and refining and changing. And so, it's pretty crazy to think where we are today, even from just a few years ago. It's all centered on uptime to the fleets. And now a fleet can monitor through a dashboard. They can see every unit they have in the country. They can see critical faults as they occur while the truck's rolling. They can diagnose them down the truck or move the truck allow it to continue to operate. On the International system, the fault code in that system will actually tell them what parts are needed for that repair, And then they can search, they can look on a map, see where the next international dealer is, look at the inventory, and see if we even have the parts. So, it's that, and all that, the end goal of all that is they can pull that truck in. We have the right part at the right time, get them going same day, back on the road. That's really where the focus is more intensely, I think, right now. And then, we'll have, there's a lot of other solutions out, propane and natural gas. I have a hard time keeping up with that stuff. It changes so rapidly, but for us right now, that's the on command is where our focus has been as a dealership and as a franchise, I think.
So I actually know Brian Mulshine because I was a service manager at an international dealership for a couple of years. So I got to know Brian from there, and I know he left and went to work for one of the dealers, and he's back home again at Navistar Corporate. So he's got a great vision over there. I've talked to him a couple of times, and it's funny the things you're talking about. We're trying to do really similar stuff on the aftermarket side because it's our belief that an independent garage is working on something. It shouldn't take 20, 30 minutes for those guys to make a bunch of phone calls to figure out what part they need and who has it in stock and what price it is. There's a huge time waste going on there. And the technician's just sitting there in the middle, just sitting there cleaning his toolbox or twiddling his thumbs trying to decide to work on another truck or do I wait or what's going on? Sure. And you talk about the shortages and inefficiency in the shop repair experience. There's definitely some excess that needs to get cut out of the whole equation. So it'll be
your laptops have been a huge help. As I said, of course, we have International's proprietary software and Cummins, but we use your laptops in my dealership. In my dealership every day, we use it because we're working on other makes and in some of the other diagnostic. I won't say who. I think my guys believe your equipment, your laptops work better at diagnosing than that does. So y'all have done a great job in trying to help us be more efficient. And get those trucks out quicker.
Well, I really appreciate it. That's really what we're trying to be is not just a diagnostic tool provider, but a shop efficiency company, right? To say, hey, you guys need a great diagnostic tool. You need repair information. You need a phone a friend or chat with a friend online and training classes. And those are the things that are missing. You get it in the dealership world, but can you imagine being only aftermarket repair shop and not having access to OEM information? It's a tough challenge for tens of thousands of repair shops out there. And I know some of those guys are your competitors as well, so I won't dig too much into it. But we do appreciate being a customer of ours and everything, and appreciate you coming on the show. So if people want to reach out to you or go to your website or talk to you guys, where do we go? LinkedIn, the web? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
We have a web presence at grahamtrucks.com, and then my commercial tire operation. We cover a huge geographic area from Dallas to almost Texarkana, way over in East Texas, up north into central Oklahoma. So we cover that big area. So grahamtrucks.com is the dealership website. grahamtruckcenters.com is the commercial tire operation website. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with anyone out there and that would like to find me.
Well, awesome, Brett. Really great hearing your story. A family business, truck dealership. You do aftermarket stuff as well. You're kind of all over the place. I love following you on LinkedIn. Keep posting stuff on there. Hopefully other dealer principals, we can get to similar stuff as well. I love the industry. It seems like you do too as well from all the things you talk about. So again, thank you for coming on the show. And as Brett just said there, everybody, it's not just diagnostics, it's diagnostics done right. And I just want to say again, thank you everyone for watching the episode and keep it easy. Thank you.